A marriage is built on trust, respect, and the occasional test of patience. But nothing prepared me for the moment I found my husband, shirtless and on his knees, fixing our young neighbor's sink, a sink he miraculously had time for when mine had been not his problem. That was the moment I realized something had to change. A couple of weeks ago, I noticed our kitchen sink was leaking. Nothing major at first, just a slow, annoying drip. By the next day, it had turned into a full-blown mess, and the water started pooling under the cabinet. I found Mark lounging on the couch, his attention completely absorbed by his phone. "Mark," I said, leaning against the doorframe. "The kitchen sink is getting worse. There's water everywhere now." He glanced up for half a second, his thumbs never stopping their dance across the screen. "So call the plumber." I straightened, surprised by his dismissal. "But you know how to fix sinks. You did it last year when we installed the new faucet, remember?" This time he actually looked up, irritation flashing across his face. "Claire, I've got a million things on my plate right now. Do you see me lounging around here? I'm catching up on work emails. It would take you maybe 15 minutes. The plumber charges." "For God's sake," he interrupted. "I don't have 15 minutes. Not for something this trivial. Just call the damn plumber and let me focus." I felt my cheeks flush with heat. "Trivial? Our kitchen is flooding." "It's a drip, not a flood," he said, eyes already back on his screen. "And if you keep pestering me about it, that's exactly why I never want to do these things. The nagging makes it 10 times worse." "Nagging?" The word landed like a slap. I stood there for a moment, waiting for him to realize how hurtful he'd been. "Fine," I said finally. "I'll call someone tomorrow." A week later, I wrote a check for $180 to a plumber who fixed our sink in exactly 12 minutes. On my way back from the grocery store, arms loaded with bags, I ran into our neighbor Lily, a bubbly blonde in her late 20s with those long, smooth legs. She embodied everything I'd stopped being somewhere in my late 30s, perky, carefree, and unfairly gorgeous. "Hey, Claire," she called, bouncing over to help me with my bags. "Let me give you a hand with those." "Thanks," I said, relinquishing 2 of the heavier bags. "But I can manage." "Nonsense." She flashed her perfect smile. "Neighbors help each other. Speaking of which, your husband is amazing. Not every man would drop everything to help out a neighbor in distress." I nearly tripped over a crack in the sidewalk. "My husband. Mark?" She nodded enthusiastically. He's at my place right now. My kitchen sink was completely backed up. I knocked on your door, and he answered. He didn't even hesitate. Just grabbed his toolbox and came right over. The bags suddenly felt 20 pounds heavier. "Is that so?" "Absolutely. He's such a sweetheart. He even took his shirt off when water splashed all over it." She giggled. "I told him not to worry about it, but he insisted he works better that way." "I'm sure he does," I mumbled, a slow burn starting in my chest. "Would you mind if I stopped by?" I asked. I've been trying to understand how these sink things work since mine broke last week. Mark doesn't have to know, he likes to keep those tricks a secret. "Of course not. Come see your handyman in action." We entered Lily's apartment quietly. She winked at me and motioned toward the kitchen. "He's been at it for almost half an hour," she whispered. "Said it was trickier than he thought and would take a while." Funny how he could spare half an hour for her tricky sink when our trivial one wasn't worth 15 minutes of his precious time. I stepped into the kitchen doorway, and there he was. Mark, my husband of 15 years, on his knees in front of Lily's sink cabinet. His shirt was indeed off, revealing the back muscles that still looked impressive at 45. He reached deep under the pipes, completely focused on his task. "Hey, Mark, how's it going?" Lily asked. "Heya. Just wrestling with these pipes. You've got to make sure this connection is tight," he said, unaware of my presence. Otherwise, you'll get leaks like my wife had. Though yours is actually a bit more complicated. Of course it is. I thought. Is it going to be expensive to fix? Lily asked, leaning against her counter. Her posture emphasized every curve she had, and she had plenty. Mark laughed. Not with me doing it for free. If you'd called a plumber, they'd charge you at least $200 for this. 200? 20 more than I had paid that morning. You're a lifesaver, Lily gushed. I don't know how to thank you enough. Just being neighborly, Mark replied, and I could hear the smile in his voice. I heard enough. I quietly picked up my groceries and slipped out, neither of them noticing my exit. The walk across the lawn to our house was short, but it gave me plenty of time to think. This wasn't just about a sink. This was about respect and about being taken for granted. Well, two could play that game. That evening, Mark came home around 6, his hair damp like he'd showered. Where were you today? I asked casually as I chopped vegetables for dinner. He hesitated just a fraction too long. Just running some errands. Stopped by the hardware store. Found what you needed? Yeah, he said, grabbing a beer from the fridge. Just some odds and ends. I nodded, sliding the vegetables into a pan. By the way, the plumber came this morning and fixed the sink. Good, he said, clearly relieved I wasn't upset anymore. How much did he charge? $180, I replied. He said it was a simple fix. Mark winced slightly. That's highway robbery. I smirked. Well, you know what they say, if you want something done right. He looked slightly uncomfortable and walked away, smiling. I didn't say a word that night. No accusations. No passive-aggressive comments. No, I had bigger plans. That weekend, I organized a neighborhood barbecue. Mark had no idea what was coming. Saturday arrived with perfect barbecue weather. Neighbors filtered into our backyard, bringing potluck dishes and six-packs. Mark manned the grill as usual, playing the role of a gracious host. I waited until I saw Lily arrive in a sundress that hugged everything it should. I watched Mark do a double take when he spotted her, then quickly avert his eyes when he realized I was watching him. Perfect. I waited until there was a good crowd gathered near the drinks table before making my move. I waved Lily over enthusiastically. Lily. Come meet everyone, I called. Hey everyone, this is our new neighbor, Lily. She beamed at the attention. I put my arm around her shoulders in a friendly gesture. Lily, I've been meaning to ask you something, I said, my voice carrying just enough to draw attention. How exactly did you get Mark to fix your sink so quickly? I've been trying for years to get that kind of service. The conversations around us quieted. I could feel Mark freeze by the grill. Lily, oblivious to the trap, laughed. I just knocked and asked. He was so sweet about it, and he came right over. Isn't that interesting? I mused, looking directly at Mark now. Because when our sink was leaking last week, he told me he was too busy and I had to call a plumber. Cost us almost $200. Oh, no. Lily's hand flew up to her mouth. The neighbors' heads swiveled between us like they were watching a tennis match. Someone whispered, uh-oh, just loud enough to be heard. Well, maybe he wasn't busy that day. Lily tried to reason. Must be, I agreed. And I guess taking his shirt off helped him work better too, huh? That's a technique our plumber didn't try. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the crowd. Mark abandoned the grill and strode over, his face a storm cloud. Claire, he said through gritted teeth. Can I speak with you inside? Now? I smiled brightly. Why? I'm just having a friendly conversation about home repairs. Mark grabbed my elbow and practically dragged me toward the house. Excuse us for a minute, he called over his shoulder. Once inside, he rounded on me. What the hell do you think you're doing? I crossed my arms. Making a point. Making a point? You're embarrassing us in front of all our neighbors. No, I corrected him calmly. You embarrassed yourself when you decided our sink wasn't worth your time but hers was. You embarrassed yourself when you lied about where you were. His face flushed. You're blowing this completely out of proportion. I was just being neighborly. Neighborly? Is that what we're calling it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks an awful lot like you couldn't be bothered to help your wife but jumped at the chance to play hero for the pretty young blonde. That's ridiculous, he scoffed, but his eyes wouldn't meet mine. Tell me, Mark, if Mr. Jensen next door had knocked asking for help with his sink, would you have rushed over shirtless? He had no answer for that. That's what I thought, I snapped. Go back to the party. I just wanted to make sure you understand how it feels to be dismissed, and to be a second choice in your own marriage. With that, I stormed out, but I wasn't done yet. The grand finale was just getting started. For the next few days, I became spectacularly unhelpful in all the ways Mark had always taken for granted. On Monday morning, his alarm didn't go off. What happened to my alarm? He demanded, rushing around to get ready for work. I sipped my coffee calmly. Oh, I noticed the clock was running fast, but I figured you were too busy to deal with it. You should call a timekeeper. Tuesday, he opened his drawer to find no clean underwear. Claire, where are all my clothes? I looked up from my book. In the hamper, I think. The washing machine seems complicated. Maybe ask Lily if she knows how to work it? By Thursday, he came home starving to an empty kitchen. There's no dinner, he asked, staring into the barren refrigerator. I had a really busy day, I explained with a shrug. Didn't have 15 minutes to spare for something so trivial. There's a great takeout place down the street, though. Finally, on Friday night, he sat down across from me at the dining table. Okay, he said, defeated. I get it. I folded my newspaper and waited. I was an ass. I didn't fix our sink because I didn't feel like it, but I jumped at the chance to help Lily because... He trailed off. Because she made you feel important? Needed? Appreciated? He nodded, looking genuinely ashamed. Yes. All of that. And I'm sorry. I didn't realize how it would look or how it would make you feel. I studied him for a moment. You know what hurt the most? Not that you helped her, but that you lied about it. That you made me feel like I was asking too much by expecting my husband to help me. I know, he said, reaching for my hand across the table. I messed up. Big time. I allowed him to take my hand but didn't quite soften yet. The bathroom sink is dripping now. Just started this morning. A flash of panic crossed his face. I'll fix it. Right now. You sure? You're not too busy? I can always call that plumber again. No, he said, already standing up. I'm on it. He fixed the bathroom sink in record time. And as I watched him work, I realized something important. Sometimes the problem isn't the sink, it's making sure your partner knows their value. These days, Mark fixes everything around the house without complaint. And Lily? Let's just say she's found herself a professional plumber, one who keeps his shirt on and charges her full price. Last week, when our dishwasher started making a strange noise, Mark was under it before I could even finish my sentence. You know, I told him as I handed him a wrench, I've noticed a direct correlation between sink repairs and marital happiness. He laughed, looking up at me with genuine affection. Lesson learned. Painfully. Good, I said, kissing the top of his head. Because next time, I won't just embarrass you at a barbecue. I'll invite your mother over to watch me do it. Because here's the thing about marriages, they're built on trust, respect, and the understanding that if you ever fix the neighbor's sink before your wife's, you'd better be prepared for the pipes of your comfortable life to burst wide open. And trust me, that's one flood no man is equipped to handle. Write in the comments what would you have done and subscribe to our channel D-Damn Mix.